Hello everyone and welcome to Twitch Tales, episode 89. Where did we leave off in episode 88? We were attacked by a smoke monster. Apis has just come back to the material plane from the elemental plane of Earth, where they met an Earth Genasi called Spear. Spear followed Apis back to the material plane to assist Apis with the fixing of a couple of very important ancient artifacts called sentinels, things that have abjuration magics protecting a particular location of interest. While fixing the air sentinel, which was a huge relief within a cave in the shape of an elven woman, Apis was attacked by this elemental being of air and fire, this manifestation of smoke. They were suffocated and had to sort of misty step out of there and fight it and all the rest of it. And while they were fighting, Spear, this elemental who can speak to elementals as well, was trying to talk to it and ascertained it's one of the mindless ones, one of the beast types. It's basically an animal. It's just going to keep attacking till we've killed it essentially or dispersed its energy. And so Spear helped you to fight this smoke elemental. During the fight, it spit off a couple of smoke rings, and if you were to touch one of those smoke rings, it summons another smaller version of itself. So it turned out to be a relatively difficult fight. But you managed to prevail. Is that the right word? Prevail? You managed to prevail against this smoke monster and disperse it back to whence it came, and then recover from your injuries. Save the Myconid who tried to help you in the fight, and you ended up punching out cold with your planar warrior fist. Punch right to the face with its one hit point left. And you managed to bring him back to save his life. You talked to the other Myconids, and they sent a couple more aggressive guards to help you in protecting you while you cleared out the rest of the cave. You cleared out the cave. You spent the next few days, hence why you have long rested since the stats that you were left on after the fight. You've had time to long rest those away. You spent a few days with Spear clearing out rock, fixing up the different elements of this very, very tall, very, very wide cave, so that it looks like the relief of this elven woman. And at the centre of the bottom of this cave is a very long, tall mushroom tree thing. And the Myconids have told you that this tree is, this mushroom is the basis of a connected teleportation network that they can use with other Myconids around the globe. They said because of the cave-in, it's been damaged and it will take some time to heal and grow. So you've got a few days before the portal to Homeland is open. So on the day that you finish the sentinel, the air sentinel to the ancient elven guardian woman Nami, you're presented with some forced downtime essentially. So Apis, what do you want to do with your time? Do you want to continue straight into the next thing and try and fix up the next sentinel, the fire sentinel? Do you want to take a little time to yourself to just level up and train? Do you want to read a book or something? What do you want to do? Are we still with the Myconids or back to the village? Right now you've just finished this is the last day of you finishing the cave, and so you're sort of standing back talking to the Myconids about this giant mushroom and the cave that you're standing in. Level up and train. Can use the training to fight the elementals. Level up Fire Sentinel, then level up 50-50-ish. Fix the Fire Sentinel. Fixie, not 50-50. Fix. Fix the Fire Sentinel first and then level up after. Are things unstable due to one Sentinel being left unfixed? You don't know. You'll find out. You're given some time. Fix the Fire Sentinel first because Julius was getting overwhelmed. It's sounding like fixing the Fire Sentinel might be the go. Let's put it to a vote real quick. I think it's mainly just level up or fix the Fire Sentinel. So thumbs up for level up, thumbs down for fix the Fire Sentinel first. You've got if you are following the channel, you should have an access to the ups and downs emotes. So level up for thumbs up, level down for hunker down and fix the fire sentinel. All right, the downs definitely have it. Down for hold down the fort. Someone ban image, please. So we decide. It looks close, but the no's definitively have a majority there. That's a very clear majority. So, Apis, you decide to take you think, oh, man, I really could do to train some more, but I don't want to risk the forest burning down while Julius is the only one dealing with things. Let's head back and see if this is enough to fix up that fire sentinel. So, is there anything you want to do here with the air sentinel and the myconids before you leave to head back to the village in the forest near where the fire sentinel is? Is there any last things you want to do before you want to? I know that somebody I think Wraith just said that they want to try and see if you can force yourself to teleport to the location you're going. Just step back and appreciate it. It should look beautiful. It does look beautiful. It is quite hard to see. It's kind of one of those things of like some of the other sentinels. Not that you've seen that many sentinels, but some of the other ones, the Earth one, for instance, you can step back from. You can get a distance away, and you can like appreciate it all. You can take it all in at once. Like Mount Rushmore, you can watch. You can see it from far enough of away to go like, wow, that's quite the feat. But with this one, obviously, if you take a step out, then you're not in the cave anymore and you can't see shit. And if you are in the cave, then you're kind of a little bit too close to appreciate it. So that's why it's taken you a few days. It's been difficult to be able to appreciate which parts need fixing and which parts are. And is it in the right? Have we got it in the right scale? Is her head too big? Because you're looking up at this huge cave. And it's been very difficult to sort of get a handle on it. So it's beautiful in the sense of like the amount of work you've done over 4 days is very much impressive. But you can't really appreciate it for its beauty like you can with some of the other sentinels. Close our eyes and use tremor sense to sense the form and appreciate it that way. Very clever, Ridal. Yeah, you can sort of tap into the immediate surroundings as a dwarf. You use your sense of connecting to the rock itself, and you can appreciate the form that it's taken. You've had to use a lot of that while you've been sort of clearing it out from within. Thankfully, both you and Spear have tremor sense to be able to do that. Should we grab some cave dirt just in case we need some in the future? For not feeling isolated, you can do so. Yeah, you grab a little bit of the loose dirt and rocks and stuff that the myconids have been ferrying out of here at greater plum. Can we attune to this sentinel? You don't need to attune to these sentinels. It was just the steam one that was that has a particular effect on you that you needed to spend some time with. Do you know the name of this one? Yes, this one is called Nami. That was an inspirational suggestion, Red. Not quite. Any other things that you need to do while you're here? Doesn't sound like any other suggestions coming in. So I guess we are going to leave. We are going to try and bamf our way back over to where we were with Julius, back over to the village and whatnot. We ask the myconids if they know where the teleporter is on the other side located roughly before we use it if we're done here. Yes, sure. You say when this thing is healed or fixed at all, when it's grown afresh, do you know where it connects to? And the myconids tell you everywhere. Yeah, but like I know like everywhere, like around the globe and stuff, but like specifically where I want to go, do you know where is the nearest place to where I want to go? There's a little back and forth. You've got a +1 charisma, so you're doing okay at trying to explain yourself, but you're having to try and explain where you're located geographically to a culture of mushroom people that spend their entire lives in a colony underground in a cave somewhere. they're not exactly well versed in geography. They just know the different villages, the different colonies that they are connected to, and this is an age where like not everybody has a decent training and education in geography and knows the world map and where certain things are. So the chances that you actually know the different islands and regions and the cardinal direction from here and how many miles it is in any particular direction, any of that, like you're struggling to find any way of explaining where it is to these guys. You just know, I'm from, can you get me to Shadridge? Can you get me to the Great Expanse? Can you this and that and the other? And they explain that they have colonies in great many places, and so the best they can offer is like they can send you back and forth like between it throughout this network until eventually you find one that's closest if necessary. But they're pretty sure that they can get you pretty close. That's as much as you're gonna get. Could we try teleporting outside of the cave? Maybe we need to practice short distances and we can see where, so it might help us, but further than 30 feet from Misty Step. Okay, so you want to practice trying to teleport further than Misty Step, but less distance than a full-blown teleport. Alright, so if we're going to be trying to push Misty Step a little further to a spell, something like Dimension Door maybe, would probably be the next step up from Misty Step. So I'm going to see, let's see, what spell slots do you have? As a ranger, you've only got 2nd level spell slots, so Misty Step's Dimension Door's a 4th level, so what am I going to set this at? 1% chance? I think 1% chance is a pretty generous chance. Alright. We will try. We'll see if it works. This is, we're going up to a 1 in 100 chance rather than a 1 in 1,000 chance. So, Wraith, you were the one to suggest it, so give me a number 1 to 100. And if we roll that on the percentage dice, on Apis' percentage, it works. And we have practiced some dimension dooring. This is, for anyone joining, the reason we're allowing this is because you are a Horizon Walker, and Horizon Walkers are all about teleporting and knowing portals and such. 69, of course. Alright. Let's head over to the dice cam, and if we roll a 69, Apis is successful. That is a 91. 91 is not a 69. So, as we sort of just think, let's see if I can tap into what it takes to get where I need to go. You walk outside the cave. And you find a clearing that you can see. What you've practiced before with your Misty Step is feeling what it feels like to be in that area that you want to be in, imagining and projecting yourself to that area and thinking, what is the ground like beneath my feet? If I want to Misty Step from where I am to where I want to go, what would the ground feel like when I land there? What would it feel like to have the air around me? How humid will it be? And so you can do that within 30 feet and you can jump yourself there. But then you push it a little further and you think beyond that and you're like, okay, over to the other side of that pond. Limber up. And you think, why am I limbering up? It doesn't take a physical embodiment to get over there. Okay. You focus and you focus. And you're standing focusing for a long time. Like a good 3, 4, 5 minutes. Until Spear is eventually like, how long do we wait to see if you can do this? You say, I think maybe that's long enough. So, well, gotta keep trying, I guess. And you instead start to walk. You instead start to walk in this direction over to in the direction of home. How are you getting home? Let's think. Have you prearranged with Seed to come pick you up at some point, or Julius maybe? I think that probably makes the most sense. you've shush Spear, don't distract us. We'll try it for as long as we need to. I think over the days that you've been here, you have been dropped off in the morning by Julius and like picked up again in the evening. And Julius is has prearranged, like when the sun goes down, like time to come home. What is happening? If we flavor Dimension Door to be cast in the ground and call it Dimension Pit, can we get like a trolling bonus? Dimension Pit. What is the traditional New Zealand greeting? Perhaps a visual version of that include Uncle Herf, someone that's been around a while. I'm not sure what you're getting at, Matt. I think you wait for the allocated time because Apis, you've only ever arrived here in the claws of a giant owl or teleported via unicorn, and so you don't exactly know how you're going to get from here back to Seed's village, and so you just kind of have to wait for the unicorn to turn up and bring you home. And as they do so, the unicorn pops into existence, walks out of the nearby forest towards you, and as before, you place your hand on his coat, and this feeling behind the navel being pulled and sucked and shrunk down, and then expanded back again, popping back into existence in the new location. It's a strange feeling, but you're trying every time. You're trying to really focus on what it feels like to teleport that way, and trying to focus on that feeling to somehow imbue your ability to teleport. Is Julius inspecting the work when he comes to get us? He'd want to know how the excavation was going. Oh, definitely, yeah. Julius has definitely been giving you pointers about like what he knows about what the dimensions of this thing is. He doesn't know a hell of a lot about it. He's imbued his divine knowledge rather than book smart. He's not learned about any of this. He just knows things from being a celestial. Idea for pushing a teleport further: pick a number and roll a d100. If you are within 10 of the chosen number, then you teleport that far away from the target. And over 10, you take the difference between and roll unchosen number. Jesus, no. Why? It's so complicated. No, you got a 1% chance of pushing yourself to cast a spell way higher than you should be able to cast that's not even on your class spell list. Oh dear, this neuron gets motion sickness. Yeah, there's a hefty portion of you that every time you teleport, you're like, ooh, need a minute to just like ground myself again when you get to the other side. What do you want to do with your evening? You've got your evening free. Do you want to immediately launch into trying to fix the Fire Sentinel on the same evening that you've just spent 4 days trying to fix this one? Because if you do, you'll probably risk a level of exhaustion because you're working pretty hard. Anything you want to do with a couple hours of downtime is, I guess, what I'm asking. Like, do you want to start reading a book? Do you want to train something? Do you want to... I know you were trying to learn Elvish. I don't think anybody here, even Seed, who is an elf, doesn't speak any Elvish because he wasn't raised by elves. Can we see if we can get some more info out of Spear about this genie that they're working for? Oh, you could try, yeah. Yeah, while you've been working, let's say, over the last 4 days, you've been talking to Spear, trying to get relatively whatever information you can get from them. Let's just roll you a straight charisma check, or a persuasion check, I suppose it will be, which, because you're not proficient in it, will just be a straight charisma check. Just to see how charming you're being and see how much information you've learned about Spear. That is a 10. That is a 10 plus 1, so 11. Average. Just an average chit chat. What you'll learn from Spear about the genie that they work for in some way is that they are a Dao, an Earth genie, and that is a sultan of an entire region of the elemental plane of Earth, particularly a region within the middle grounds, as it's called, and pretty much nothing else. Like, they're quite cagey about any information. They tell you that this sultan that they work for is very fond of shiny things and material wealth. They're very opulent and very much about displaying wealth. What else would you get? What else are they happy to talk about? I think you notice that they change their... They change the topic. They change the subject relatively quickly. Not in like an obvious way, just in a way that like they answer something and then from that reminds me and blah blah blah, and they'll talk about something else, and then that kind of shifts onto something else, and before you know it, like you'll think, wait a minute, they were talking about something else already. That was pretty smooth. You'll learn that Spear is a very good talker, a very good, very charismatic person. Knows how to conversationalize and does so to their advantage. When it's a topic that they don't want to be talking about, though, they will shift the topic without it seeming too jarring. That's pretty much what you're going to pick up on in that time. Do we at least get a feeling of if Spear wants to be working for this Sultan? You don't get any impression that Spear is resentful of the Sultan or doesn't enjoy working for them. You don't get any impression either way, really, that they're like super excited and stoked about it, or that they're indentured to them or anything like that. You just get it kind of matter of factly that this is just the fact of the matter. I work for this Sultan. We should speak to a mirror like in The Sims and improve our charisma. What form does wealth take for them? Shinies and gems and owning slaves and things of that nature. Think the Prince Ali song. Lots of opulent animals, a huge menagerie, lots of servants, lots of expensive silks and things from other planes of existence. Are there areas of the Earth plane that are safe, not the tectonic tango? They do mention that there are lots of different areas of the Earth plane, like it's an infinite plane essentially, and there are places that are safe depending on what you mean by safe, and depending on what your species requires to be safe. If you, for someone like yourself as a dwarf, Spear tells you that the place you were is one of the safer places. The middle grounds he refers to. They refer to the middle grounds being like the closest you're going to get to having like pockets of air and water and such. But Spear also tells you that there's areas of the middle grounds that aren't as tectonically volatile. Places with a little bit less chaotic movements of the rock and such. There are places within the middle grounds that you can live out entire lives in, like in a cave system that doesn't really change year to year. Do you know anything from the other elemental planes? Spear responds that they don't know a hell of a lot about the other planes of existence. They've had a lot of interaction with diplomats from those planes of existence and other genies, and not directly the genies, but people who are sent to the Earth planes by the other genies for relations with the Sultan, but that they've never been to any of those other planes themselves. What does Spear know about the gods? What would Spear know about the gods? Let's see. What do they know about the gods? Oh shit, nat 20. Spear apparently knows quite a bit about the gods. Spear is decently well learned in the gods, has probably read up. Wouldn't have a lot of first-hand knowledge about the gods because they don't know... Oh, they probably would know a cleric or two. Yeah, Spear knows a couple of clerics through the Sultan and has learned through them stuff about the gods. Spear would know a decent amount about the pantheon and the origin of the gods and such, or at least the common myths about the origin of the gods. Maybe their Patreon told them. Is that just a plug for Patreon that I'm not understanding? Or did you just mean patron? Maybe their genie patron told them about the gods. Not as likely, because the genies don't necessarily give a shit about the gods. They consider themselves not above the gods, but like removed from the god. The genies will generally see like gods and mortals. There's definitely like a hierarchy of gods and mortals, and then genies are just like, we're not part of that. Like, gods don't rule over us and we don't rule over them. Like, we're just separate from them. Which, whether or not it's true, is a different matter, but that's kind of generally what genies believe. Ask Julius whether the fire sentinel has caused trouble. Yeah, alright, so you when Julius arrives to take you back, Julius, you say, so how have we been over the last few days, like how the fire has been? And Julius says that the increase of elemental sightings has definitely continued. The fire sentinels, the fire sentinel being broken is not good for the prevalence of fire elementals coming through. The fire sentinel is not preventing the elementals from coming through yet, but your fixing of the air elemental, the air sentinel, is definitely reducing the amount of smoke and steam elementals, and is instead they're becoming more and more just flickering flame types, which are easier to find and easier to spot and easier to stop. But he does say that the last ones that he's been noticing are smaller fire elementals that he calls ember elementals. And the ember elementals themselves are not an issue, but they kind of lead the way for fire elementals to come through. If the ember elementals can go unchecked, enough of them can congregate in a place and essentially start like a little summoning circle among themselves. And then the ember elementals will, if allowed to complete their little summoning circle, will ignite whatever's in the middle of the circle, and through the ignition of that will summon in other fire elementals, which can then start forest fires and such. And so he's been running around trying to stamp on these ember elementals for most of his day. Is he looking okay? He was struggling with the fires before. He's looking okay, like he's coping. When we teleported back, it would have been by the fire sentinel, since we can't go to the village. Julius would have taken you where you wanted to go. If you said, like, let's go and have a rest, then he would have taken you back to wherever you've been camping for the last few days. But if not, if you'd asked him to go to the fire elemental, the fire sentinel, then he would have taken you there instead. Quick, go put the ember elementals in jars and make cute lights out of them. Perhaps we should capture enough of these ember elementals so we can use them to summon a fire in the bowl. Maybe. Sounds like we need to get that fire sentinel fixed quick smart. Alright, so we ask Julius to take us to the fire sentinel, and when he teleports us, that's where we end up. We end up not too far from it, short walk away, and you get to where the head of this huge cauldron is, for anyone who needs a reminder or hasn't been here. These sentinels are statue-like creations by an ancient race of elves that lived here in this forest, protecting the forest for reasons I won't get into. But but each sentinel represents a particular type of abjuration. So the water sentinel, what's the word? So many words. None of those words. Cultivates? That's not the right word. Protects? I don't know, my head's not woken up yet. The water sentinel looks over the barriers between the material plane and the water plane and makes sure that those things are intact, so that water elementals don't come to and from, and so that portals don't just randomly open to one plane of existence or the other. The fire sentinel does that for the fire plane, and so on. And now that now that you're standing in front of the fire sentinel, it is a huge, sort of almost 20-foot diameter in its widest point, head of this elven woman. A huge, tall thing, and made out of a particular type of rock that you can only find on the elemental plane of earth and fire, called ignazite. Ignazite is a rock that can withstand extremely high temperatures without melting into lava. and it is moldable and manipulatable when you have earth molding skills like the earth elementals do. And so it has been shaped and carved into this huge head of this woman, this cauldron, and the bottom jaw of it is actually kind of like a hinged rock with some very intricate stone hinges, essentially. And you're standing in front of it. What do you want to do? Julius, I've noticed a space in the Fire Sentinel for air, but do you know how that works exactly? Do we need like magical bellows or something? And Julius says, I telepathically to you, says, I don't know anything about forges or blacksmithing, I'm afraid, so it's a little beyond me. As a dwarf, you weren't raised in a mining town. Let's see what you know. Let's see what you know about forging and smithing. You don't have smith's tools proficiency, and you weren't raised in a mining or smithing town settlement. You haven't spent any time in rock dwarf settlements. So let's just do an intelligence check. That is a 12 plus 3, 15. With a 15, yes, you know enough about forges and smithing that fire burning just from coal or charcoal gets to a particular temperature, and to get it hotter than that, to get it hotter than its natural temperature, you need to add air to it at a consistent flow. You need to be blowing oxygen across it. And in order to do those, there's a lot of different ways that many different cultures have come up with over the years, but one way is to have, bellows. And so, yes, you would imagine you probably do need some kind of magical bellows. With the 15 intelligence, you'd probably know that the jaw being hinged in the way that it is, rather than just open, is probably that it, like, if this jaw moves on this giant sentinel head, then it probably acts as bellows. Stonework dwarven modifier? It didn't apply here. We were trying to think about how forges work, not how stone works. The jaw has a hinge. Is there also a hole coming out of it, or something similar? There is, yes. So there's a hard palate to the top of the inside of the mouth of this giant stone sentinel that acts as the bottom of the basin of the interior cranium space. So the structure of this stone sentinel is similar to the structure of a humanoid skull. Like, it does have the hard palate where the hard palate would be, and the bottom jaw is not actually a part of it. And so at the back where the soft palate would be is a hole up to where the fire is. So there's a good chance that as it's opening the mouth, it's sucking air into the thing. It's just that it doesn't have any of like the leather pouch or whatever you would call the thing on a bellows. It doesn't have like the container. So there's nothing where if the mouth opens, there's nothing to force the air to like enter the mouth. It doesn't have a diaphragm or lungs, for instance. We just need a hireling to work this jaw 24/7. Can we pump the jaw and see it in action? Yeah, you and Spear walk over and you grab the jaw and you kind of like and you're kind of like lifting it up and down and scraping it back and forth. But as I say, just moving the jaw, there's nothing to force it to inhale, as it were. Plus, there's no fire in there at the moment, but you can easily put some wood in and set it on fire and then pump the jaw, and it doesn't really work, it doesn't do anything. I think we should plan for tomorrow. I like the idea of getting embers caught, perhaps by Seed and Julius, while Spear and Apis work on fixing the jaw. Could do. Can we just ask the Fire Sentinel to talk? You could. You know her name. The lady who created this particular sentinel back in the day, hundreds if not thousands of years ago, was a lady called Shirakill. Shirakill was her name. Let's get the sentinel rapping. Yeah. Be like, Shirakill, could you please recite Rap God? Some element you seem I'm human. What I gotta do to get it through you? I'm superhuman and a man. I'm a rubber. So then he says, "Rich enough for me. A little good. You never stay another never demonstrate. Never can't do it." Suddenly, whoosh! Fire at the top. Can move, rotate the fire sentinel at all. Maybe we could place it so it catches the wind or something. It is way too big and too heavy for that. As I said, 20-foot diameter head, anatomically correct. And the 20 foot is like the widest part, obviously. So like front to back probably is about 20 foot. And then side to side, maybe like 15 feet or something. And then tall would probably be at least another, what's that? Is that about the same as that? About 20 feet tall, give or take. But the top of it, the back of it's kind of cut off. Because where the hairline would be is stopped. Because the idea is, as Julius has told you, the idea is that in this cauldron you go around the back to where you can actually get stuff into it, and you place fuel in of some kind, and then whoosh, the fire, once lit, goes up like a Dragon Ball Z Goku fire standing up on end. Seed, have you seen the sentinel before it was broken? Do you know what was in the space? Point to the spot for the leather bit and what happened to it. There is no spot for the leather bit. Like I'm saying that it just looks like a face. And normally on Bellows, you have like a hinged bit, but all around the hinged bit is like a leather bag essentially that can inflate to hold in the air. Without that, it's just doing this. There's nothing holding in the air like a balloon or something. You need something to actually hold the air, and there's nothing over. Like it would, if anything, the leather would be like over the mouth. But then where does the air come in? Through the nose? And I don't know. You're not sure. And I'm gonna say after 4 days solid of working on the air sentinel, you're too tired to think straight and to work out what this problem is. And it's getting dark now, so you probably should be better having a sleep instead. Does Seed know of any wind type spells? As a druid, he knows a couple, but doesn't know a hell of a lot. Seed's spells, Seed's druid levels came to him through a gift from a higher source, not through practice with other druids. He was abandoned and raised by wolves essentially, and so he's kind of learned the things that he's learned himself. He's never studied air all that much. We take 20 to kind of sit and contemplate meeting the sentinels, connecting to them, what it was like talking to the Earth Sentinel. Try and ask Shirikil what she needs to start guarding again, either before bed or in the morning when we wake up. That sounds like a good idea to me. So lacking any other suggestions from yourself to what to do here, you just take a seat and you think about the time that you were offered the meeting of these 12, and you met with the 12 guardians in a vision. You learned their names. You just sit cross-legged in front of Shirikil and you try and connect to her. You find it easier to connect to the land around her. Being with your myconid mushroom abilities, you can connect to the land, you can connect to the plants and the vegetation, the flora, the flora around you. You feel a connection to it in a deep way. But you try to focus your attention on Shirikil and bring your attention back to her as you rest. I'm going to make it a religion check. And you're not proficient in religion, so just straight intelligence. That is a 17 plus 3 for intelligence, a dirty 20. With a dirty 20, you take some time to really tap in to Shirikil, and you feel her presence there. You feel like she is whole, but she is not working. You feel her in the same sense as you would feel somebody's presence if you were sitting next to them in a hospital bed while they sleep. Like, you can tell they're there, but you can tell that they're not at their full strength, at their full power. So you just calmly and sort of politely inquire with her, what is it you need? What can I do to help you? The answer comes not from her, but from another presence that joins you. You feel the presence of Nami. You're familiar with her, and you're familiar with her presence and what she feels like, because you've been trying real hard every day for the last 4 days to feel what she feels like and to know what she looks like and to recreate her appearance in the relief of this cave. And so you feel her and recognize her almost instantly as she comes into this kind of meditation with you. And then you're thrust into this vision, no longer just a presence. But you see 4 of them. You see the 4 sentinels that represent the first 4 elementals. And having seen them before and had them introduce themselves to you before in a vision, you recognize them as Shalandrian, Drapulenith, Nami, and Shirakil, the water, earth, air, and fire sentinel creators, respectively. The 4 of them are standing around you, much like the 12 were before. Only they're standing around with their arms outspread and their hands interlocking with one another. And you can tell that they are communing. You can tell that they are meditating together. That they are removing the barriers between their physical bodies and their souls. And they are intertwining themselves with one another. You can tell that they are holding each other up and supporting each other. To blur the lines of where one ends and another begins. Much like, as you know, the elemental planes itself does, where the boundaries between the plane of earth and plane of water lie, there is a plane of ooze. And where the boundaries between fire and air lie, there is a plane of smoke. And so to point at any particular area within the elemental chaos and say which part of this is air and which is fire is kind of a meaningless question. Much in the same way as looking at a colour chart and saying which part is red. You can draw a vague line, but any line you're going to draw is going to be disputable. You're given this vision, and in this vision, with the nature of the 4 of them, Shirakil is only to the side of 2. Nami and Drapulenith, the air and earth sentinel. And she is across from Shalandrian, the water sentinel. You come back to who you are in the moment. You feel the ground beneath you and the cold night air over your skin. And you know that she's trying to tell you that she needs the input from both the earth and air elements in order to work. Now that you've fixed that air sentinel and air is a more regulated influence on this plane of existence, air magic can work more predictably, more reliably. You're not sure how to do that. You're not sure what that takes. But you talk to Seed about it. Seed agrees that he will think on it and try to work out some air magic. And then you head to bed, because you're exhausted by this point. It's been a very long day. It's been a very long few days. As you rest, you get visions of various things flittering between your busy mind. Visions of the different sentinels, visions of the different people that you've met. You get vision of Spear setting fire to the forest. it kind of wakes you in a moment, but you see that Spear is just resting beside you, and you realise it was just a nightmare, not a vision, not an omen. It's just your busy mind and your paranoia, certain synapses being paranoid about his intentions, and you head yourself back to sleep. You see Julius and this shadowy creature in a fervent fight. This humanoid being with these bulbous yellowish insectoid eyes. It's a fretful sleep, but it is ultimately restful. In the morning, Seed comes excitedly to you and says that overnight, while he was meditating, he had dreams like he hasn't had in a long time. A woman came to him. She introduced herself as Nami, and she started teaching him spells that he hadn't accessed before. Wind wall and control weather and air bubble. Some of them, when he woke, he didn't remember the details of. He knows that one day he will be able to control the weather, but for now it's a little beyond his abilities. But air bubble remained. She taught him this spell to maintain a person's ability to breathe. That it encompasses a head, the head of a creature, with a bubble of infinite air, such that they can breathe under any circumstances, toxic smoke or underwater. And he thinks he might be able to try it on Shirikil. So, in the morning you head back to the Fire Sentinel, and sure enough, with his newfound druidic abilities, he discovers that Shirikil's statue, her sentinel, counts as a creature for the purposes of this spell. And Seed casts a spell called Air Bubble on her, and you see in that moment this swirling input from the air around that gets sucked in and whipped up, and it gets forced into her nose and mouth, and her mouth opens, and you can see that this air is being perpetually fed into her now. The bellows that are her jaw have been primed and filled, but that is just one input. She was surrounded in your vision on both sides by Nami and Drapulineth. To work, she needs the air and the earth. And so Spear steps up and he says, I think I can handle this. I too had a vision last night where creatures came to me, this being, this someone not too dissimilar to yourself, he says to Seed. Someone came to me and he called himself Drapulineth, and he taught me bones of the earth. And he thrusts up from the ground, and these pillars come up from the ground right beneath the jaw and force the jaw shut. And you see dust and debris and the ash and leftover stuff that you have been burning within the fires of Shirikil's internal cavity, thrust from the top with great aplomb as the fire is the air is forced from her mouth up through the hole at the back of her soft palate, as it were, and out into the top of her head. And then immediately, without Spear having to do anything further, the pillar drops back down into the ground and then thrusts back up again, and once again with the input from the air bubble and the bones of the earth pushing it up. This giant stone bellows is set working. All that remains is for you to ignite it. At that moment, Julius appears next to you in a teleportation. And for one thing, that's already a little bit disconcerting, because every time that he's arrived before, he's teleported nearby and then walked silently out of the forest to you. And as Julius appears next to you, seems a little concerned, and then says, "More of those embers, now." What do you want to do? Where is our special magic from a dream? What, you mean like every spell that you've gotten so far, where I've written you a dream about how you've gotten it? Go get them embers, put them in the cauldron. All right, so you say, lead the way, and Julius says, latch on. You slam your hand onto the just below his mane, onto sort of the haunches, I think it's called. And no sooner have you touched your hand that all of you have grabbed a hold of some part of Julius that suddenly teleporting through to... I thought we were special. Outrageous. They can't get special magic. How dare they? It's only us that gets this magic. You know that you're just one character in my entire world that is every single campaign that I run is set in my that is set in my world, right? And most of the characters that do magic get their magic through some sort of special level up dreams in my games. So yes, you have main character of this story, but within this story there are a lot of other main characters. You teleport from where you are to an area of the forest you haven't seen before, but you can see that there are sparks and embers around you as you arrive down. It's like being near a bonfire that is something's just been thrown onto it and smashed down against one of the logs, breaking it into two and throwing up a dust of ash and embers around you. There's no fire itself. There's no bonfire that you can see, but it is like the air is filled with the smell and the heat of a fire ready to start. The combustion point is close. So what we're going to do here is, technically these embers are creatures, so we could go into an initiative, but I don't think it's the most interesting way to do this. Instead, this is basically going to be a skill challenge. If you can succeed on 3 skills before you fail on 2, you are going to be able to put out these embers or capture them or whatever it takes to prevent the forest fire. Only you can prevent forest fires. Smokey the Bear says, "Thank God you're here," and then he runs off into the forest. You can succeed on 3 skills before you fail on 2, then you can succeed. If you fail on 2 before you've succeeded on 3, then the fire erupts and we go into something else that I've got planned. So, what do you want to do? It's over to you, Apis. Skill challenges, the way that they work in my games, is that basically you can choose a skill that you want to roll, and then you tell me how you're going to use that skill in some way. And I set a DC on how long that is going to take, how difficult that is going to take, how difficult it's going to be. Obviously, one of those skills needs to be playing panpipes. You could try that if you want. Yeah. The name of the bear that visits the feast every night has been confirmed in his canon. Smokey, yeah. Okay, I'll go with it. The bear that's part of the feast every night that Seed has befriended over the years is called Smokey. Stealth. Sneak up on one and have spear for a little stone prison for it. All right, that's a good option. Let's see. I like stealth. Nobody else is try and calm them with pam. So we've got panpipes. We've got stealth. Any other options? Well, we got stone proficiency, know how the fire could properly light the cauldron. Not going to be useful for like dealing with the fire right now. Use an unlit torch as a trap. Ooh, nice tasty unlit torch for an ember. Ooh, that'd be a good one. So like a persuasion almost. I'm not sure how that would be. That'd be good though. Athletics to dive onto an ember and hold it. Yeah, that could work. Athletics, animal handling, tasty oil, yeah. Dump a water skin on one for just a dexterity check. Deception, it's a trap, yeah. Alright, let's start doing these one at a time. So let's go with a Let's go with stealth first. Stealth is a pretty safe option because we have a +3 in stealth, +3 in dex, and we've got a +3 from our proficiency bonus, taking it to a +6 in stealth. So let's go with the stealth option first. So with a +6, let me see a DC. The idea is you are going to try and in the moment you touch down, you think, how am I going to deal with some of these? You're going to try and you see the directions that they're flittering, and you see that, sure enough, as Julius has said, some of the ones that have landed and started to catch alight on various different bits in the forest. Thankfully for you, it is winter. It is early winter, and so thankfully for you, it's early winter. And so it is relatively cold, and so the embers are having to work a little harder than they would be to finish off this summoning circle, because they have to find kindling that's enough to work. And so the first few that are landing are just doing the purpose of like heating up the ground again, thawing out some of the overnight frost and whatnot. So it's giving you a little time. So you sneak up behind some of the ones that are focusing on the summoning circle with your stealth, and you're going to try and get Spear to encompass some of them inside of stone boxes, essentially. All right, preventing forest fires definitely calls for a forest bonus. I will allow a forest bonus, yes, which is, I always forget forest bonus. It's not just a flat 2, is it? Is it double your proficiency? Somebody remind me how forest bonus works for a ranger. So the DC for this, they are creatures with tremor sense, but you're not touching the same ground that they're on. They don't have a particular directional sense, so it's going to be relatively difficult to sneak up on one because they can see everywhere around them, essentially. Blind sight kind of senses. So I'm going to set the DC pretty high. I'm going to set it at an 18. Is it double proficiency? Thank you. So you've got a +3 from dex, +3 from stealth, and because it's a forest and you are a forest favored ranger, I'm going to give you another +3 from that. So you got a +9 and the DC is 18. Here we go. I'm going to hit the dice tray. That is a 7 + 9, which is going to be a fail. Do we want to use our lucky horseshoe? Yes or no? The help action from Spear. No, Spear's doing his own. Everybody's doing their own thing for this. Yes, lucky horseshoe. All right, let's use that lucky horseshoe to re-roll it. That is a 5. That is a 5 or a 7 + 9 takes us to 16. 16 is not quite enough. So that is one failure. As you try to stealth up on this thing, you realize, crap. There's just 2. Oh, okay. Good point. Pass without trace. Pass without trace. You did say after the fact, not before the fact. So there's a chance. I'm going to see I'm going to roll to see how kind I feel like being right now. Yeah, we caught it. It burnt our hands and we put it down. It was mentioned before as well. Okay. Well then I will say. What is that? Yeah. All right. All right, fine. I will allow it. Post hoc. I will say that you have cast Pass Without Trace, takes it to an extra 10 on your stealth, and that it turns it into a success. And because you cast it, you didn't have to use your inspiration to re-roll it, because the 17 + 9 would have been enough. So you Pass Without Trace on yourself. It brings the shadows in, and it encompasses some of the smoke from that these embers are creating as well. There's not a lot of it because they're on the ember elementals, not huge things. So you cast your Pass Without a Trace, and you get a 17 total, 17 + 9, so 26 total, which is one success. What is the next thing we're going to do? Thumbs up, thumbs down for panpipes. A few people were saying those. I don't know if it was actually a joke or not, but it could genuinely be a thing that you try to do, like calm them, Peter Pan style, not Peter Pan. Pied Piper. Pied Piper style. Do you want to actually try and Pied Piper some of these embers or calm them? Play a music that they'd be interested in? No, just a joke. Okay, so we're not going to pan pipes. What are we going to do then instead? So we've done stealth. Do you know any fire songs, Adele? I set fire. Please don't set fire to the rain. Unless we're using panpipes as fuel to catch them in. The other thing I want to do with the panpipes is use them as a lure for the embers. What else did we want to know? Use survival to know exactly what point to throw water on the fire to put them out. Could do that. Could do survival. Thumbs up, thumbs down for a survival check next, because survival could be useful. You know how to put out a forest fire. You know how to put out a campfire to smother the embers and things. So survival, knowing how to smother the embers quickly and then throwing something onto them to smother them as much as possible. Alright, survival has an overwhelming yes, so we're going to do the same with survival. So it's going to be a +2 from your wisdom, a +3 from being proficient in it, and you are in a forest, so forest fire bonus applies. That's another +3. So you've got a +8 to your survival bonus here. The DC for this one relatively much easier than the stealth was, because it's easier to put out an ember than it is to sneak up on one. Yeah, so I'm going to set it at a 15. 15 success, and you need you've got a +8, so you need to roll a 7 or more to succeed. We're only taking out the escapees. Yes, the ones that are flitting away to start fires elsewhere. That deserves inspiration, doesn't it? Earth, wind, and fire. Indeed. What deserves inspiration? Slylock. What did Slylock say? Something by earth, wind, and fire. Clearly. Ha ha ha. No, not enough, Rafe. Thank you anyway. Thought we needed to scoop them into the sentinel. Yes, we probably could do with using some of these embers in that sentinel to start that fire. But the ones that are here, we're not putting all of them out with this skill check. You're just containing them. As a ranger, as an outlander, as someone who's a forest specific ranger, you definitely know how to contain a fire. Or at least you hope so. Let's find out. That is an 11. This stupid dice cam is not large enough to hit. That is an 11. Oops, turned off all of my cameras. Dice cam. With an 11 plus our survival check of 8 takes it to a 19. With a 19, you're managing to extinguish a bunch of these embers, send them back to their plane whence they came, and contain the ones that are left in the middle. You are succeeding. You could still fail the next 2 and still fail this. You've got 2 successes and 0 failures. What is our next and possibly last check going to be? 11. What is our next and possibly last check? We've done stealth, we've done survival. What do we want to do? Deception to trap some of them on the jars of oil and torches as bait. I like that one. Deception, try and lure them. Perception, to see and notice which ones are in the most immediate danger. The most immediate danger for us. The torch trap could be a cool idea. I think with the deception, because you're using oil and torch, I would give you advantage on it. So I know that some people are looking at the character sheet there and going like, "Oh, deception's not a good idea. We've only got a +1." But I would give you advantage on it because of the torch and the and whatnot. Athletics, just running around trapping them and things. Yeah, athletics could work. Athletics to catch them before they escape too far. Put them back. Do we have enough oil to make the line make a line leading to the sentinel? No, you don't. You don't know where that's the sentinel is. You were teleported with Julius from there. I like the torch idea. All right. Thumbs up, thumbs down for the deception idea. Using advantage because of a torch and oil, and trying to capture one in a jar of oil, so that it's burning away in a jar of oil. Mel isn't here. Mel isn't here, no. So this is thumbs up, thumbs down for deception as your next attempt. This is definitely an overwhelming yes, not a unanimous, but definitely a majority. It's a bad idea. Let's go. All right. I think it's pretty clear how this is going to go badly if you fail. So you've got a +1 from charisma. You're not proficient in deception, so you get out a torch and your oil, You get out one of your 6 jars of lantern oil that you've got here. And you try and put the torch out close enough to one of the embers to catch it and be like, hey, come, get on this torch. It's nice. Ooh, tasty torch. Ooh, there's some tar on it. And you're going to try and grab it, stuff the lit torch inside of a lantern oil jar, and then once it catches, drop the torch and screw the lantern oil on or something. You're going to try and let's roll and see how you do first. What are the chances that this is going to work? Embers are attracted. The ember elementals. They are basically like little insects or rodents of the elemental world, and so they'll go for things that are food and things that are comfort and safety, and things that are flammable are definitely an attraction for them. So it's a relatively easy DC. It's a relatively good thing to do. I'm going to set it at a... What do I want to set it at? I'm going to set it at a 12. 12? Let me look at my screen. What have I said here? Setting a DC. 12 is moderate. A moderate challenge. I'm going to set it at a 10. I'm going to say it's a 10 DC. Relatively easy, actually. Because of the nature of Ember Elementals to enjoy these things anyway. And there's quite a few of them around, so it also helps to you just need to catch one of them. You're not looking for a specific one. All right, so I'm going to grab both of Apus's dice. We're going to go to the dice cam. You've got a +1. The forest bonus does not apply here. That is a 12 or a 14. So both of those +1 is a success. So thankfully, you are smart enough with the way that you utilize the oil to not just explode yourself, or to fling burning oil all over the forest or anything. You get out a jar of oil, and Apis says, and Spear's like, should you? And Julius is like, eh. And then whoosh, you manage to get one of the embers to land on the torch. Whoosh, the torch goes up. You sort of wave the torch about till some of the fire falls off from that into the lantern oil and catches, and then you put the lid back on. But you've pre-poked a hole in the lid of the lantern. I don't know. Maybe you've pre-poked a hole in the lid of the lantern oil so that it can still get oxygen. Magic. You've done something smart with it. I'm imagining them like dust sprites that are instead flames. Kind of like that, yes. Yeah. Our first successful deception check, probably, yeah. We're on fire today. Full success. We have experience. We've made Molotov cocktails before. Do not drop these jars, Apis. The jar has a wick. We just took the wick out. Yeah, there you go. Magic jar. Doesn't get hot. Just constantly feeds the flame. Yeah, it's a magic ember elemental. Can't be smothered with lack of oxygen. Even though you just did that with the previous check. With 3 successes and no failures, you, Seed, Julius, and Spear managed to extinguish the ember elementals before they are able to finish their summoning circle and summon a proper fire elemental to take out the rest of the forest. And then Julius walks you. He doesn't want to use teleport again because he's only got a limited number of those per day. So he walks you with you and the rest of them back to the fire elemental. It takes a half hour or so, but eventually you get back to where you're going to go. You've got your little fire Molotov essentially, and into the back as the pistons and the air bubble are still operating these bellows. Of this sentinel from this other plane of existence. You Molotov cocktail into the back of her head, and the fire ignites. Whoosh! Suddenly, this raging inferno is throughout the back of Shirikil's head, and the flames are licking the sky a good 20, 30, 40 feet high. And dancing around like hair being caught in the breeze. It is beautiful to look at, but very dangerous to be within too close a distance of. So you quickly step quite far back, and eventually you
you can get to enough of a distance to admire the beauty of it. And Julius says, I can feel it. It's safer. I think we're good for a while. Job done. Let's immediately go home now. So I'm going to head into the inventory real quick. Inventory numbers. And then just drop off one of your oil here. Just before I forget. Yeah, you've used one of your lantern oils to great effect. We did it. You did. Yes, you have all four of the sentinels. All four of the elemental sentinels. Successfully fixed. There are plenty of sentinels still to go, but that is perhaps a job for Seed and Spear and Julius and Pointy, and, as you've discovered, the very quickly growing Squinty. As Seed has requested Julius not kill Squinty, Julius has not killed Squinty. Squinty is alive, Squinty is well, and Squinty is growing. Squinty is not growing at the rate that Pointy grew, but Squinty is growing. Seed is likely to have a veritable menagerie of monsters helping to protect this village. Why do all Seed's pets grow way too fast? Because you keep feeding them every single day, and they are ambush predators that are used to living in caves, and they are meant to grow at a slower rate as they eat very low quality food over very sparse amount of time. And instead you're feeding them very high quality food every single day, and so they grow way faster than their biology should allow. How big's Squinty compared to when we picked it up? He's almost twice the size. He's sort of cute fat. Oh yeah, he's cute fat Squinty, yeah. Can Seed help it? He's the best mama. He is the best mama. Remember last time Pointy took part in a battle? Yes, Pointy is a full-blown roper, and then some. Pointy is a buffed-up roper. Maybe since Spear was visited in a dream by a sentinel, Julius will be more likely to let him stay. Perhaps. Time will tell. But for you, you have arrived at a point where you have fixed the sentinels you need to fix. You ask Julius about the next one, and he mentions that there is an ice sentinel nearby that required the elemental sentinels to be fixed in order for it to have a reliable and regulated source of elemental energy to keep the thing ice all year round. But he says we can get to that at another time. There is other work to be done, and he kind of references with his other work to be done huge swaths of this forest that have burned to the ground in the last few days that he's been trying his best to keep the fires from spreading. So there's forest to regrow with druidic abilities from Seed. There are animals to tend to with his healing horn, the ones that were hurt in the fires and stuff, and generally just looking after the land. So he's going to be busy the next few days before you can start working on any other sentinels. So Apis, you have a few days to kill. The Myconids send message through Seed to let you know that the teleportation hub is finished in the next day or two. And so you have a few days to level up, or you could head back to Shadridge. Level up, level up, level up, level up. All right, level up time, everybody. Apis is going to take some time to chill, some time to meditate, some time to think, and also some time to train real hard. What are they training in? Well, we're about to find out. Is it going to be the next level in Ranger? Is it going to be the next level in Fighter? Or is it going to be the first level in some third multiclass? There is a choice to be made. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to my polling website. I'm going to create a poll. I'm going to say which class to take a level in next. Oh, now. Which class to take a level in now? Option 1, Artificer. Option 2, Barbarian. Option 3, Bard. Option 4, Cleric. Option 5, Fighter. Option 6, Monk. Option 7, Paladin. Option 8, Ranger. Option 9, Rogue. Option 10, Sorcerer. I've done it again, I've forgotten somebody. Option 11, Warlock. Option 12, Wizard. Who did I forget? Druid. Again, I forgot Druid both times. And option number 13, Druid. Why do I forget Druid every time? Anyway, let's go with that one. Let's go over to gaming. Let's go poll private. Allow multiple votes. I'm going to allow multiple votes. I'm saying it multiple times so nobody can complain that they didn't realize. I'm allowing multiple votes on this thing. So you can vote for all of the options that you are equally happy with. If you want to go Fighter, but you'd be okay with taking Ranger, vote for Fighter. If you are perfectly happy with going Fighter or Ranger, but you just don't want to multiclass into a third one, tick Fighter and Ranger. Allow to go all of them. Okay. I think that's that. All right. I am not a robot. Create your poll, and then share the poll. Share the link to the poll into the chat right now. So there's the poll. I'll give you until there's a clear winner, obviously. This will be preferential voting as well, so if you want to go Artificer, but you know that nobody's going to pick Artificer except for you, then still pick Artificer, because if nothing gets above a 50% vote, then I'm going to eventually, after like a couple of minutes, I'm gonna do the poll again, but drop off all of the low voted or no votes ones, okay? So you can just, this is called preferential voting, and it's the way that democracy should be done, in my opinion. If nothing gets above 50%, then I'll get rid of all of the ones that people aren't voting for, and we'll vote again. Currently, nobody has voted for Wizard, Sorcerer, Paladin, Monk, Cleric, Bard, or Artificer. One person has voted for Druid, one person for Rogue, one person for Barbarian, interestingly. 2 people for Warlock, interesting. 21 for Ranger, and 26 for Fighter. Fascinating. If we're okay with both, one might win but not show preference, like voting Ranger and Fighter. Yes, which is why I'll keep dropping all of the lowest votes until we've got a 50% majority. And it's likely going to come down to Fighter Ranger, but I wanted to include all of them just to make sure that I was being perfectly honest with, like, I'm not making decisions for this character. You are deciding this character, everything about them. If you wanted to go Sorcerer, Wizard, Paladin with this character, if you wanted to go a 13-way multiclass with this character, you can do that. Like, it's your character. So you get to make those decisions. Wizard, Sorcerer, I think somebody went in and voted for everything just so that everything would have a vote. In fact, 2 people have done that because there's now 2 votes for everything. 3 for Rogue, 3 for Druid, 3 for Barbarian, 4 for Monk, interestingly, with our unarmed fighting. Poof, we've punched a couple of things to death now, so going Monk is interesting. We've got 6 votes for Warlock, and then clearly the winning votes are between Fighter and Ranger. So I will give us a couple more minutes. In fact, I'll give you until I've gone and refilled my water, and then we'll come back, and if nothing has anything more, if like Warlock or Monk don't have something sustainable by that point, then I will redo the vote as just Fighter or Ranger, and we'll decide from that point. So, make sure to be chatting in the chat. If you feel like you can sway people to your decision, now's the chance. Put your arguments out there and try and get those people on the fence. off of the fence and down on your side. I'll be right back. Alrighty. We've got 93 votes in, but we clearly do not have anybody. We've got below 10%. Below 10% of the votes have been for anything other than fighter and ranger. So we're going to redo the votes now. We're going to just put it between fighter and ranger. And at this point, it is, I mean, technically it's still a preferential voting. So like you could still vote for both of them if you are perfectly happy with both of them. But if you have a leaning of a preference of one over the other, then definitely vote for fighter or ranger. Let's go with create a new poll. Option 1, fighter. Option 2, ranger. I'm gonna include a third option for I have no preference. Thought about it, and I think that that's probably wise. I'm going to say if you are if you're on the fence and perfectly happy with either one of them, then I'd still like you to vote so that I know how many people are actually voting and how many people are just not voting because of apathy or just not wanting to be involved or whatever, versus how many people are not voting because they genuinely happy with either one, but they still want to be involved in the vote. That makes sense to you? Makes sense to me. All right. I'm going to not allow multiple votes for this because I've included that third option. I'm not going to allow multiple votes. I'm just going to see fighter, ranger, or I have no preference. And at the end of this, it will be a case of. At the end of this, it will be a case of whoever's got the highest when I call it. All right. Seems like we are at time. No other votes are coming in. And the results are 18% of people voted for I have no preference. So 18% of people perfectly happy with either. 24%, so just under a quarter of the people who voted for ranger. Which means 57% of the vote, more than half of you, wanted fighter. So fighter it is. Apis is leveling up to level 3 in fighter. And the fun thing about that means that you are going to get a choice of subclass. So when you get to 3rd level in fighter, we have to decide which subclass to take. Which subclass to take. Now, a lot of people have been talking about the subclass of Arcane Archer. Apis is a ranger. They took the archery fighting style, giving them a +2 to their ranged attacks. They're very good with a bow and arrow. They've got magic arrows. So the subclass of fighter that is all about magic arrows made sense. But that is not to say that just because people have been talking about it, it is the subclass that we're actually going to take. So I'm going to include all of the subclasses, and you guys are going to choose. Fighter. Let's have a look at what subclasses there are. The options are... Excuse me. The options are Arcane Archer. Let me read you a little bit about Arcane Archer. An Arcane Archer studies a unique elven method of archery that weaves magic into attacks to produce supernatural effects. Arcane Archers are some of the most elite warriors among the elves. They stand watch over the fringes of elven domains, keeping a keen eye out for trespassers and using magic-infused arrows to defeat monsters and invaders before they can reach elven settlements. All of that bullshit about elves, that's a little too prescriptive for me. It's not anything to do with elves in my games. Arcane Archers, it's a unique study of magic archery. It has nothing to do with elves. Over the centuries, the methods of these elven archers have been learned by members of other races as well. Blah, blah, blah. The next option is Battlemaster. Those who emulate the archetypal battle master employ martial techniques passed down through generations. To a battle master, combat is an academic field, sometimes including subjects beyond battle, such as weaponsmithing and calligraphy. Not every fighter absorbs the lessons of history, theory, and artistry that are reflected in the battlemaster archetype, but those who do are well-rounded fighters of great skill and knowledge. And what it will give you if you choose this is combat maneuvers that you can do. So you can try and do a tripping attack, or you can try and do a precise attack, or a commanding strike, or a bait and switch, and you would choose different combat maneuvers that you can use, and then you can do them. The next one is Cavalier. Cavalier, the archetypal Cavalier excels at mounted combat. Usually born among the nobility and raised at court, Cavalier is equally at home leading a cavalry charge or exchanging repartee at a state dinner. Repartee at a state dinner. Cavaliers also know how to guard those in their charge from harm, often serving as the protectors of their superiors and of the weak. Compelled to right wrongs and earn prestige, many of these fighters leave their lives of comfort to embark on a glorious adventure. You do not need to have a mount in order to benefit from being a cavalier, but it certainly helps. The next one is Champion. Champion is a nice, simple subclass. It's the subclass. It's the both class and subclass that I usually use for any NPC that I don't want to have to deal with, like remembering all of the features that they've got. If I want to give an NPC character levels, I'll give them Champion Fighter, because they're basically just a fighter, but they hit harder. They crit more often. The archetypal champion focuses on the development of raw physical power honed to deadly perfection. Those who model themselves on this archetype combine rigorous training with physical excellence to deal devastating blows. That's it. You get an improved critical, so you crit on a 19 instead of just a 20. You crit on a 19 and a 20. Then there is Eldritch Warrior. Nope. Then there is Eldritch Knight. The archetypal Eldritch Knight combines the martial mastery common to all fighters with a careful study of magic. Eldritch Knights use magical techniques similar to those practiced by wizards. They focus their study on 2 of the 8 schools of magic, abjuration and evocation, that is the protection school and the damaging school. Blah blah blah. You get a bit of spellcasting. It's going to be complicated. If you take Eldritch Knight, spellcasting becomes complicated because now you've got spellcasting through both ranger and fighter, and the spell slots don't quite work the same way, and it's complicated. Cavalier and all the horses. Yeah, Cavalier and buy a bunch of horses. I know how much all of you love having horses. The next one is Psi Warrior. Awake to the psionic power within, a Psi Warrior is a fighter who augments their physical might with psi-infused weapon strikes, telekinetic lashes, and a barrier of mental force. Many Githyanki train to become such warriors, as do some of the most disciplined High Elves. In the world of Eberron, blah blah blah. As a Psi Warrior, you might have honed your psionic abilities through solo discipline, unlocked it through the tutelage of a master, or refined it at an academy dedicated to wielding the mind's power as both weapon and shield. So, for Apis' story, this could have come through your multiple uses of telepathy with Julius the Unicorn, combined with your Myconid-like abilities. I would probably say that like it has unlocked some sort of psionic power within you because of your telepathic spores that you've been inhaling through the Myconids for a few days. Something like that. Next option is one that I know practically nothing about. I don't know much about this one. It's called Purple Dragon Knight. Purple Dragon Knights are warriors who hail from the kingdom of Cormyr, so it's a setting-based one apparently. Pledged to protect the crown, they take the fight against evil beyond their kingdom's borders. They are tasked with wandering the lands as knights errant, relying on their judgment, bravery, and fidelity to the code of chivalry to guide them in defeating evildoers. A Purple Dragon Knight inspires greatness in others by committing brave deeds in battle. The mere presence of a knight in a hamlet is enough to cause some orcs and bandits to seek easier prey. A lone knight is a skilled warrior, but a knight leading a band of allies can transform even the most poorly equipped militia into a ferocious warband. So what are they good? What's the purpose of them? What do they do? You would learn How to inspire your allies to fight on past their injuries. When you use your second wind feature, you can choose up to 3 creatures within 60 feet of you that are allied with you, and each one regains hit points equal to your fighter level, provided the creature can see or hear you. That's the only feature you'd get if you went Purple Dragon Knight. When you second wind to get some health back, up to 3 creatures within 60 feet of you would also gain 3 hit points. I have a feeling nobody's going to vote for that one. The next one is called Rune Knight. Rune Knights enhance their martial prowess using the supernatural power of runes, an ancient practice that originated with giants. Rune cutters can be found among any family of giants, and you likely learned your methods first or second hand from such a mystical artisan. If you went with this one, I'd have a bit of a hard time working it into the story, but I'm sure I'd find a way. Like, don't let that turn you off. If you want to go Rune Knight, you can. I'd have to tie in some kind of work with giants, but we could make it work. You can add magic runes to enhance your gear. Essentially, you would choose a particular type of rune, like a cloud rune or a fire rune or a frost rune, etc., and it would imbue some extra abilities to your weapons or something. Let me just check the chat. All right, the next one, this is a cool one as well, called Samurai. The Samurai is a fighter who draws on an implacable fighting spirit to overcome enemies. A Samurai's resolve is nearly unbreakable, and the enemies in a Samurai's path have 2 choices: yield or die trying. No, yield or trying to yield. Yield or die fighting. If you choose this one, you would get a bonus proficiency. You would also get the main ability of this class called Fighting Spirit. As a bonus action, you can give yourself advantage on all weapon attack rolls until the end of the current turn. And when you do so, you also gain 5 temporary hit points. And you can do it 3 times a day. So 3 times a day, you can give yourself a Fighting Spirit to give yourself 5 temporary hit points and advantage on all of your weapon attack rolls on that current turn. So for instance, if you did that and then took your action surge, you could attack 4 times and have advantage on all of them. So pretty useful. Samurais are pretty cool. There were a couple of fighters from Fondurg that were samurai fighters, I think. Then we have, last 2, we have the Echo Knight, a mysterious and feared frontline warrior of the Kryn dynasty. The Echo Knight has mastered the art of using dunamis to summon the fading shades and unrealized timelines to aid them in battle. This is a critical role one, I think. Surrounded by echoes of their own might, they charge into the fray as a cycling swarm of shadows and strikes. At 3rd level, you can manifest an echo. You can use a bonus action to magically manifest an echo of yourself in an unoccupied space you can see, and it's a magical translucent grey image of you, and it can attack and it can help you out in various different things. You can, as a bonus action, you can switch places with your echo, so teleport to where it is. So it ties in quite nicely with the Horizon Walker thing, I think, to be able to to jump between you and this ethereal version of you. I could definitely tie it into the story if you wanted to take Echo Knight. And then the last one is Gunslinger. Oh, do I even want to include this one? I'm not sure I do, because guns are in the world. And they're not actually that far from where you are currently. In one of my other games that takes place in this world, they just recently encountered some hobgoblins that were working on firearms. They'd discovered black powder, essentially. And they had a bunch of prototypes for some firearm weapons and stuff. I'll include it. I'll include it for... I don't anticipate anybody actually using it, anybody actually going for it, but if you do, I'll tie it into the story. Rin has guns. Yes, Rin does have guns. They are still very few and far between and still kind of in the prototyping stage, but there are some people in the world that are working on guns. Alright, there is the poll, and Fancy just posted a link as well to the fighter subclasses in case you want to read up on any of them. I'll give you a little bit of time to vote on this one. basically you've got until there is a clear majority, a clear winner of sorts. Echo Knight is pretty cool, but it's complicated for chat. Yeah. But let me worry about that. Like if you guys want to particularly follow a type of subclass, I can work out a way to try and make that easier on the chat. But I don't want to nerf you by you worrying about what's complicated. The only good thing about the champion is the crit. Yeah, that's literally all you're going to get at 3rd level champion. 3rd level champion is you double your chances of a crit. Instead of a 5% chance of a crit, you go up to a 10% chance of a crit. And with advantage, the chances of a 19 or 20 go up to almost 20%. 18 point something percent, I think it is. 18.5%. Echo Knight is cool, but the features are very unclear in how they work. Yeah, again, I can worry about that. I would make it very clear to the chat how things work, and I would work with Fancy to make this overlay have the features that we need. Speaking of which, Fancy, if we do end up using Arcane Archer, we're going to need 2 Arcane Archer slots that we can turn on and off. But we can talk about those things, those new additions to the character sheet, obviously. Alright, let's see. Let's have a look at the results, see what we got. Ooh, interesting. Oh, very interesting. Alright, so down at the bottom is Cavalier. Nobody wants to buy a horse and have to do mounted combat. Strangely, Purple Dragon Knight had more than Cavalier. Alright, Gunslinger is also at the bottom with Rune Knight, Eldritch Knight, and Battlemaster. Battlemaster I thought would have been slightly high. Samurai is got 8%. Psy Warrior currently has 10% of the vote. Champion also has 10% of the vote. Echo Knight coming in 2nd place with 19% of the vote. And Arcane Archer currently has 39% of the vote. Very interesting. Please can we make the Arcane Archer slots represented by 2 crossed arrows, pretty please? That would be pretty good, Sparrow. Like, turn off one, turn off the other. That would be pretty good, I think we would do that. We can just overhaul the overlay. Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be needed. You have to make your camera smaller to fit the character sheet information. Yeah, maybe. We're thinking about it, Life Fair Lady. I'm thinking about a different way to do inventory so that it's takes up a little less space and is on a different page, a different screen that I can go to when we want to look into our bag and see what inventory we've got. I can take you to a different screen for it. We're discussing options for what to do about the overlay with Spidey, the designer, and Fancy, the person who's created all of the clickable app for me. Rob, I think you may have to be, yeah, I just read that one. We're thinking of reducing what's on the character sheet. Yeah, all of the stuff that isn't necessary every single day. Like most people here remember that Apis is a hill dwarf, a non-binary, 54 years old Outlander. Like those things you don't need to reference them on the regular. Again, I could have a separate screen for all of that extra biographical information about Apis for when we need it. It's a toss-up though, because like you don't want people to turn up to be like, oh, this is my first time at Twitch Tales, what is this about? And then not have all of the information about their character there. So you got to kind of think about that. All right, looks like the votes have slowed to a stop. So everybody who's voted has voted. So we don't have a clear majority. We don't have a 50%. So we're going to do preferential voting. We need to get to 30. So 1, 2. So if I was to knock off those, it'd be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. 15 and 8 is 23. 23 wouldn't be enough, so knock off those as well. 33, 43. 43 would be enough to get that over. So we're going to do the same again with preferential voting. This means that it's going to go down to a toss-up between Arcane Archer and Echo Knight. All right, you cannot answer multiple votes for this one, so just answer the one that you have. You have Arcane Archer, Echo Knight, or I have no preference. Alrighty. Time to call it, because the votes have slowed to a stop. With 13% of the vote saying I have no preference. Thank you for still voting. I appreciate your participation. With 35% of the vote saying Echo Knight, that leaves 53% of the vote saying Arcane Archer. Only 53% of you wanted Arcane Archer specifically, with another 12% saying, I have no preference. So perfectly happy with Arcane Archer. So that gives us 65%. So about 2/3 of us wanted Arcane Archer. About a half of you wanted Echo Knight. With the overlap being people who are fine with either. So Arcane Archer it is. So let me head over to the character sheet with Apis on D&D Beyond, the one we were just talking about. And we will take a level in Arcane Archer and decide everything that is required with that. Now the even harder decisions, yes, indeed. So level up, fighter, level 3, done. Alright. Class features. Martial archetype. Arcane Archer. We have two decisions. Collapses in relief. Maybe. We've still got 2 more decisions to be made here. Alright. The first decision, a relatively easier decision to make. Arcana or nature? Arcana or nature. At 3rd level, you learn a magical theory or some of the secrets of nature. Typical for practitioners of this elven martial tradition, you choose to gain proficiency in either the Arcana or the nature skill. And you choose to learn either the prestidigitation or druidcraft cantrip. So that's different. So we've got 3 decisions to make. Arcana or nature, druidcraft or prestidigitation, and then which of our arcane shots we're going to take. We'll get to those in time, all in due time. So let's go to fast poll again. Let's create a poll. Poll question. Arcana or nature? This is which one are we going to take proficiency in? So for those who don't know how that works or don't understand D&D rules and such, what it means is everything that you are trained in, everything that you've got some time spent dedicated to studying those things, anything you are particularly good at, you get to add a proficiency bonus to it. Proficiency bonus increases as you level up. At this level, level 8, your proficiency bonus is a 3. Next level, at level 9, it goes up to a level 4, a +4. So that means if you are any of those ones under the skills box, animal handling, athletics, perception, stealth, and survival, you are proficient in those skills. You are about to add either Arcana or Nature to that list. So if you were to currently roll an Arcana or a Nature check, you would just be adding a +3 from your intelligence. But if you choose Arcana or Nature and then you make one of those checks, you'd be adding +3 from your intelligence and another +3 from your proficiency bonus, so you're extra good at them. So that's the decision that we are making. Arcana, Nature, or I have no preference. Gaming decision to make. Do not allow multiple votes. I am not a robot. Create your poll. Share the link. Vote with the link. Copy and paste. Is it called arcane for which reason? So, another good question. What the hell do either of those things actually mean, Arcana and Nature? Let me explain. Arcana is the study of anything magic. So, Arcana would be a check that I would require from you if you found a trapped door, for instance, and you investigated it with an investigation check, and you discovered through that investigation check that there were runes etched into the edge of the door. And before you open it, you're like, I don't know what this door is going to do when I open it. Is there any way that I know what... Is it going to explode? Or is it going to try and hold me? Or is it going to turn me into a pig? And you would make an Arcana check, and I would say, oh, you can tell, with a successful check, I would say, oh, you can tell that it is transmutation. There is something that's going to be changed from one form to another form if you open this door. Arcana would also be, what do I know about how spells work in this game? Or somebody's casting a spell and you want to know what is the spell going to be. You walk across a group of cultists and they're all chanting, and you, from a distance, you're stealthed and hidden, and you want to study them and be like, can I tell what they're doing? Is it like a blood ritual? Are they summoning something? You would make an Arcana check. Arcana would also be like, how do I know how to get rid of this magical curse on me or something? Arcana check, Arcana check, Arcana check. Anything magic. Or anything to do with the planes and magical planar things, which as a Horizon Walker you're going to be dealing with a lot. Nature is relatively straightforward. It's anything to do with your knowledge of nature. Survival is like your applications of nature. Nature is just straight up knowledge about nature, knowing anything about trees and such. And if I describe some beast and you say, do I know what this beast is, or do I know how a roper works or whatever, I'll be like, make a nature check, see if you know. Makes sense? All right, let's have a look. How are we going on the poll? Do we have a clear winner? Ooh, interesting. We do have a winner, but it wasn't super clear. Oh, now it is. Just since I checked, they were both under 50%. I feel Arcana would be a new direction for Apis as a person. I mean, maybe. Solid arguments for both is what I'm hearing. Nature for Ranger, Arcana for Horizon Walker. Yeah, I think that sums it up really nicely. Rangers would normally lean more towards nature than Arcana, but Horizon Walkers would normally lean more towards Arcana than nature. So either one's very useful for you, and both of them can work very well with your character, I think. If we give up our mushroomness, we won't be a fun guy. One thing is picking proficiency to what you would expect the current story arcs. The other is picking proficiency and having the DM steer the campaign into situations where it's useful. Yeah. Arcana make it easier to do the teleportation experience? No. Those are just a straight roll to see if you can do something that you shouldn't be able to do. Would nature work on other planes? Maybe. What is like a nature check to see what is natural? Often, Wraith, I will say, like, if you ask me something that could be either one, I'll be like, make either a nature check or an Arcana check, your choice, but what I tell you will be flavoured around which one you've done. So if you want to do a stealth check to see what you know about a religion, then you can try that, but you're not actually going to learn useful information. You're going to be like, you learn that the god of stealth is this. All right, so currently, I have no preference is at 15%. Nature is at 39%, which leaves Arcana at 47%. Now, Arcana is not a majority there, but if you add on the 15% from I have no preference, it is above 50%, as is Nature. So they both get above 50% with the I have no preference, but Arcana is in the lead, and therefore Arcana wins it. So we are going to take Arcana. Don't worry about that being the wrong choice. As somebody mentioned before, I will steer you into situations where Arcana is useful, and I'm sure you will often decide for yourself how to use Arcana in a useful way as well. Arcana as a Horizon Walker will come in handy quite a lot. Poll question. The next question is prestidigitation or druidcraft. And again, this is very much like we said before. Prestidigitation feels very good for a Horizon Walker, very normal for a Horizon Walker to take. Druidcraft feels very normal for a Ranger to take. So either one of them, very on character. Prestidigitation or druidcraft. I will explain what both of them are. I have no preference. And then poll category. Gaming, poll visibility, private, allow multiple votes, no, I am not a robot, choose all of the bus. Verify. Alright, create your poll, share the link, copy the link into the chat. That is the poll. Now, what does prestidigitation do and what does druidcraft do? Let me look it up and tell you. They are basically the same spell with very different flavour. Prestidigitation is the simple kind of all-round miscellaneous, very weak cantrip for wizards and wizardly things, arcane magic. and Druidcraft is the same, very weak all-rounder, catch-all, miscellaneous magic for nature magic. There are basically 3 types of magic in D&D. There's divine magic, there's nature magic, and there's arcane magic. And there's thaumaturgy, Druidcraft, and prestidigitation. And each of them is basically the catch-all cantrip. Not catchy cantrips, the catch-all cantrips. Alright, so prestidigitation, let me read it for you. This spell is a minor magical trick that novice spellcasters use for practice. You create one of the following magical effects within range. You can create an instantaneous harmless sensory effect, such as a shower of sparks, a puff of wind, faint musical notes, or an odd odour. You instantaneously light or snuff out a candle, torch, or campfire. You can instantaneously clean or soil an object no larger than a cubic foot. You can chill, warm, or flavour up to a cubic foot of non-living material. You can make a colour, small mark, or symbol appear on an object or a surface for 1 hour. Or you can create a non-magical trinket or an illusory image that can fit into your hand and lasts until the end of your turn. So if you need a bucket, you've got a small bucket, a cup or something, a bowl, let's say. If you need a mess kit, you can conjure a mess kit with it, and then it disappears 6 seconds later. If you need a key, you can conjure a key, not necessarily a specific key, but you can conjure a key. So something like that, and obviously you can do other things with it as well. Like if you say, could we use prestidigitation to do this thing? And it's not one of the things from the list, then I'll probably allow it depending on how powerful it is, as long as it's in line with the rest of the power. It's simple conjuration stuff, simple transmutation stuff, simple evocation stuff. It's like the simplest version of all of the different spell slots and such. All right, then the Druidcraft on the other side of things is kind of like that, but themed around nature magic, themed around druidic things. Whispering to the spirits of nature, you create one of the following effects within range. You create a tiny harmless sensory effect that predicts what weather will be at your location for the next 24 hours. The effect might manifest as a golden orb if it's clear skies, a cloud for rainy skies, falling snowflakes, etc. And the effect persists for 1 round. You can instantly make a flower blossom, a seed pod open, or a leaf bud bloom. Like you can grow a little vine out of something if you need it. You can instantaneously create an instantaneous harmless sensory effect, such as falling leaves, puff of wind, sound of a small animal, the faint odour of a skunk. The effect must fit into a 5-foot cube. Or you can instantly light or snuff out a candle, torch, or small campfire. Very simple stuff. Also, I would include things that are in prestidigitation in this one. Things like cleaning. Cleaning a little bit of your clothes seems druidic. So basically, they're basically very similar to the same spell, but what you can do with them is just flavoured around either rangery druidic-y kind of stuff or whatever. Alright, let's have a look at the copy results. Paste results. Ooh, close one again. Close one again. I love it. We have a majority though. I'm continually worried about whether Apis smells bad. Can we fix stuff with Druidcraft? No, that's a different spell called Mending. So here's how I generally rule. I'll give you a few more minutes in case you want to vote and you haven't yet. Here's how I basically rule like the utilizing spells for different things than is written. If you try and use the spell for what's written in the spell block, you can just do it. If you try and get me to change the spell in any way, if you're changing it for just flavor, but mechanically it just works the same as in the spell, then it just works. But if you try and get me to make a spell do a different thing, if it's vastly different, I will probably get you to roll for it to make a spellcasting check, see if you are good enough with your own abilities as a spellcaster to change the spell from what it's meant to do to something else on the fly. I might do that. But where I kind of draw the line is if you try to make a spell do the effect of another spell, then I'll be like, no, there's already a spell for that. So if you try to use Druidcraft to mend something, You could probably use Druidcraft to like hold something together temporarily. Like you could use a vine. You could Druidcraft a vine out of the ground and then use that to like tie something up that was broken. But it wouldn't mend it, because that is a different spell called mending. Likewise, if you tried to use Druidcraft to like send somebody a message with a bird, be like, use a Druidcraft to create a little bird and send a little message off. No, because that's a different spell called Animal Messenger. If you used Druidcraft to be like, I'm going to extinguish this whole campfire, or I'm going to move this fire from there to over here, I'd be like, you're pushing the boundaries of what it can do, because that is a different spell called Control Flames. Alright, so what are we up to? We've got 6% saying I have no preference, 44% saying Druidcraft, leaving 50% saying prestidigitation. So Apis is going with prestidigitation. It's a little more arcane. It's a little more study based, which suits Apis's +3 intelligence. You are very book smart. You are a very book learned person. So you have studied your spell rather than just being gifted it. And then that is our options chosen for Arcane Archer lore. Now we have the last thing to decide for this level, I believe. And then we need to roll our hit points as well. Ooh, rolling hit points is always exciting. The last thing for this decision is a big one. With Arcane Archer, you get a feature called Arcane Shot. At 3rd level, you learn to unleash special magical effects with some of your shots. When you gain this feature, you learn 2 arcane shot options of your choice. Once per turn, when you fire an arrow from a short bow or a long bow as part of the attack action, you can apply one of your arcane shot options to that arrow. You decide to use the option when the arrow hits a creature, unless the option doesn't involve an attack roll. So you can wait until you hit and then apply the magic to the arrow, which is pretty interesting. You have 2 uses of the ability, and you regain all expended uses of it when you finish a short or long rest. Good thing about Fighter is you get a lot of your stuff back on a short rest. So Action Surge, Second Wind, and your Arcane Archer shots will all come back on a short rest. You gain additional shots if you reach certain levels in this class. So if you went all the way up to 7th level as a fighter, you would get an additional arcane shot that you can choose. But it's likely, from what people are saying about Apis, that you're going to stop after 3 levels. So this might be the only 2 shots that you get forevermore. So you basically choose 2 different types of magic, 2 different schools of magic. There are 8 schools of magic. I'm not going to list them all. There are 8 schools of magic, and you choose 2 of them, and then you can imbue that type of magic into your arrow, and they do particularly cool things. Fancy has linked a link to them if you want to read about them yourself, but I will also put it in. I will also explain what I did, like I did with the subclass. I will explain them as I write them. Which arcane shots to take? So we're going to go into the classes. We're going to grab Fighter. We're going to go down to Arcane Archer. I'm going to grab the Arcane Shots. Arcane Shot option. Alright, listen up everybody. This is the one time I'm going to read these things out, and then I'm going to put them in the poll, and you're going to make a choice. And you're going to vote for all of the ones that you think you are equally okay with taking. If you are okay with 7 of them, and there's just one that you really don't want, then pick all 7 and leave the 8th one off. It's going to be a multiple vote thing. Take your time with these. There's lots of good options. There are lots of good options. There are none that are objectively bad here. Piercing as well is one that is probably the weakest, and I have decided overnight that I'm going to adapt that for that reason, just to make it even harder on you. So the first option is called Banishing Arrow, and it uses the school of Abjuration, the protection school of magic. You use Abjuration magic to try to temporarily banish your target to a harmless location in the Feywild, asterisk. It is based on banishing someone to the Feywild for 1 round. But I was talking with Fancy in the Twitch Tales chat last night, and we were sort of going back and forth. And I'm kind of cool with there being a storyline where you can, over time, learn to banish people to different planes of existence temporarily with this arrow if you should choose it. So you could, as a Horizon Walker, you could tap into the different locations you've been to, the Earth plane, for instance, or whatever, and you could temporarily banish them there. Wherever they are banished to a harmless location. The creature hit by that arrow must succeed on a Charisma saving throw, or they're banished. So if they succeed a Charisma saving throw, they do not get banished. Charisma saves are really relatively easy to make somebody fail, because not a lot of creatures have high Charisma. While banished in this way, the target's speed becomes 0 and it is incapacitated. So it is like solidly just held in one place in the Feywild or wherever they go to, and then they pop back at the end of its next turn. At the end of its next turn, the target reappears in the space it vacated. It's basically a skip-a-turn arrow. You hit somebody, they disappear off the battlefield. So the bad side is you can't hit them with anything while they're gone. But the good side is they can't do anything, and they can't be buffed by any of their allies or anything. There's nothing that can happen to them while they are gone. They're just off the battlefield for a turn. You don't have to worry about their turn. You can deal with the minions or whatever until they come back, whatever it is. So there's upsides and downsides. At the end of the next turn, they reappear in the space that it vacated, or the nearest unoccupied space if that space is vacated. If you're only fighting one creature, you banish them. It gives you and your allies, it gives you all a round to like prepare, and then you can take the ready action and attack them when they come back or whatever. So, could be useful. The second option uses the enchantment school of magic and is called the Beguiling Arrow. The Beguiling Arrow. Your enchantment magic causes this arrow to be temporarily beguile its target. The creature hit by the arrow takes an extra 2d6 psychic damage, which is a good source of damage because not a lot of creatures can withstand psychic damage. You then choose one of your allies within 30 feet of them. The target must succeed on a Wisdom saving throw or be charmed by the chosen ally until the start of your next turn. The effect ends early if the chosen ally attacks the charmed target, deals damage to it, or forces it to make a saving throw. Could be useful, very circumstantial. The 2d6 psychic damage is good anyway, but you can hit somebody and then charm them against you, for instance, and then that thing can't willingly attack the thing that it's charmed by. So it can't attack you, for instance, if it is charmed by you. Then the next one is Bursting Arrow. Bursting Arrow imbues the arrow with force energy drawn from the school of evocation, the school of damage. The energy detonates after your attack. Immediately after the arrow hits the creature, the target and all other creatures within 10 feet of it take 2d6 force damage each. There is no saving throw for this one, so the benefit is it's just a shit ton of damage. It's force damage, which is very, very, very rarely resisted or immune. So it's just straight damage. It very ties in thematically with Planar Warrior, which also turns your arrow into an ethereal force damage. You can apply it after it hits, so you can you do a bunch of area of effect damage essentially. So very useful if you want to lean into high damage dealer. Like if you want to just be like damage, damage, damage. Bursting Arrow is a very good choice to take. It's not got a lot of flavor to it. Like there's not a lot of utility. There's not a lot of other things you could do with it, but damage it does well. The next one is called Enfeebling Arrow. Enfeebling Arrow from the school of necromancy. You weave necromantic magic into your arrow. Just pause here for a second. Necromancy does not equal evil. Necromancy as a school of magic is outlawed in my world, in certain parts of my world, currently the part that you're in. So necromancy is illegal, but healing is also technically necromancy in my world as well. Healing is necromantic magic, so necromancy is just the magic that pertains to bodies and the way that bodies work. So healing magic and an enfeebling magic and bringing somebody back to life is necromancy. Bringing somebody to undeath is necromancy, of course. So it's kind of a big broad thing, and healers in the world, clerics and such, they are doing a type of outlawed magic, but they've gone through a process of making sure they've got license to do so. They've been okayed. Tick. So necromancy does not equal evil. Don't hear that this arrow is a necromancy magic and therefore it's an evil magic. No. You weave necromantic magic into your arrow. The creature hit by the arrow takes an additional 2d6 necrotic damage. The target must also succeed on a constitution saving throw, or the damage dealt by its weapon attacks is halved until the start of your next turn. So you can weaken somebody with your arrow. It does extra damage as it saps some of their strength, and then they can hit very weakly with their bow and arrow and their swords and stuff. They don't do as much damage to you for one round. Very useful. It could definitely draw on topics of the shadows that you've encountered, the necromancy shadows from Shadridge that were sapping people's strength. We could also draw on story elements from like the myconids, the mushroom spores that you've been using, that you're kind of turning into a myconid, and you have mushroom spores, and a lot of mushrooms kind of sap the life from other things. So could draw on something if we went with that one. Could tie any of these into the story, I'm sure. The next option is called Grasping Arrow. This uses conjuration magic. When the arrow strikes its target, conjuration magic creates grasping poisonous brambles which wrap around the target. The creature hit by the arrow takes an extra 2d6 poison damage. Its speed is reduced by 10 feet, and it takes 2d6 slashing damage the first time on each of its turns that it moves 1 foot or more without teleporting. So it's wrapped up, and if it tries to move through them, it moves with them but scratches them as they move. Does a bunch of damage to them. Pretty useful, very utility based. If you're being chased by something, you need to slow it down and damage it as it runs after you, or if you're chasing something, either way, in a chase, very useful either way. The target or any creature that it can reach it can use its action to remove the brambles with a successful athletics check against your DC. Otherwise, the brambles will last for 1 minute or until you use the option again. So for 10 whole rounds or until they've used an action to tear them off. Pretty useful stuff. Is it considered magical? I would say so, yes. It is being conjured by magic through a magic arrow, all about from a school of magic. Yeah, I'm definitely going to say that all of these damage types are considered magical damage. If we pick that, do we need to do it illegally or make some paperwork? Not necessarily, Pockfin. You're also cure woundsing yourself, which is technically illegal in my world. Basically, if you do that in front of somebody who's a stickler for the rules, they would be like, do you have a license for that? And if you don't, then you could get in trouble and pay a fine, or you could be arrested, or you could just be sent on a course to be like, you just need to speak to a cleric somewhere in some town and be like, hey, look, can I actually run through my curing and stuff that I do and the cure wounds that I've done before? And like work with you to understand how curing works, and then at the end of it, you get a paperwork tick. So to answer your question, kind of yes. Either do it illegally and get away with it, or get licensed. Would other people consider these necromantic shots illegal? Other people might not even notice that they were necromancy unless they're like studied in magic. You'd just be like, whoa, he's doing some magic stuff to that guy. The brambles are good, but they seem very reminiscent of Lucifreak. Yeah, could definitely tie in some story elements of Lucifreak's Bramble Dome, and having to push through that yourself and getting scratched up and realizing how useful that was, as like, yeah, it was terrible for keeping people in, but like it was useful. If I need to keep somebody in, I can draw on the power from Lucifreak. Might be wise to get ourselves a license when we get back to town. That is something that they could probably push through at a rush if you get back to Shadridge if you're in the middle of a war. If Shadridge is still standing and whatnot, obviously. If you can get back to some town that is still standing during the height of a war, during a war front, they probably need healers, and probably they're like, hey, do you heal people? All right, let me quickly get you a license. Did we take Presti or Druid? We took Presti. May end up angering an Archfey if we choose the Banishing one and keep sending them to the Feywild. Definitely something I've thought of. Alright, Grasping Arrow we've discussed. The next one is Piercing Arrow. A little bit lackluster, so I have homebrewed a little bit of a difference to it. Piercing Arrow. You use transmutation magic to give your arrows an ethereal quality. When you use this option, you don't make an attack roll for the attack. Instead, you shoot it in a direction. Just send it off in a line. It goes in a 1 foot wide, 30 foot long line before it disappears. The arrow harmlessly passes through any objects, ignoring cover. Each creature in that line must make a dexterity saving throw, and on a failed save, a creature takes damage as if it was hit by the arrow, plus an extra 1d6 piercing damage. On a successful save, a target takes half as much damage. So if there's a bunch of people in a line, you want to shoot all of them and pierce all of them like a skewer. This, I think, could hit allies. Yes, that's one of the things that I've changed about it. I've changed two things about this. Instead of it being 30 foot long, it is now 60 feet long, because it just feels like the chances of you getting several people lined up within just 30 feet, it's not likely to happen unless you're running along a corridor and a bunch of people are chasing you. It doesn't come up all that often. So instead it's going to be 60 feet long so that you can fit more people in it. There's more chance of you actually getting like 3 people in a line and making it worth it. The other thing is you can choose whether or not it hits a person or object on the way. So it says it passes harmlessly through objects, but if you want to smash an object, if you want to cause damage to something, you can also choose to make it hit that object. Basically, when you choose the piercing arrow, you choose which things in the line you want to hit and which ones you don't, and you can make it do that. That's how I've homebrewed it to make piercing arrow a little bit less lackluster. All right, the last two are seeking arrow. Seeking arrow uses divination magic. You grant your arrow the ability to seek out a target. When you use this option, you don't make an attack roll for the target. Instead, you just choose a creature that you've seen in the last minute, and then fire the arrow, and it flies towards that creature, moving around corners if necessary, ignoring 3/4 cover and half cover. If it's moving around corners, if this target is around a corner and it moves around corners, then it should also ignore full cover. Why would it not ignore full cover? Technically speaking, as written, it doesn't seem like this arrow ignores full cover, which makes no sense. Of course it ignores cover. I'm gonna say that it ignores full cover as well. Makes no sense. It basically flies to them. If the target is within the weapon's range and there is a path large enough for an arrow to travel to it, the target must make a dexterity saving throw. It's Yondu's arrow. It is very much Yondu's arrow without the whistling and without you having to know where the target is. It just seeks it out itself and finds it. If it can get to it, the target must make a dexterity saving throw. If they succeed, it misses them. If they don't, they get hit by it. If failed save, the target takes damage as if it was hit by an arrow, plus an extra d6 of force damage. And you will learn, as soon as it hits them, you learn where that target is. So if, for instance, you have just been mugged and face down in the street, and then you get up and you're looking at a crowd of people and everybody's running away, and you're like, who just mugged me? Who just pushed me over? Who just stabbed me in the back? You could just be like, well, I saw that the guy was wearing a black cloak. I can't see him right now, but he's a black guy with a black cloak. And you fire off of the arrow, and it goes whee and finds the guy in the crowd and stabs him, and you're like, oh, he's over there, and you can run after him. Could be pretty useful. And then finally, the last one is called Shadow Arrow. You weave an illusion magic into your arrow, causing it to occlude your foe's vision with shadows. The creature hit by this arrow will take an extra 2d6 psychic damage. Again, pretty useful type of damage. And it must succeed in a wisdom saving throw, or it's unable to see anything farther than 5 feet away from it until the start of your next turn. So if it is a creature that relies on spellcasting and it can't see where it's spellcasting to, can't do anything. If it's a creature that's relying on ranged attacks, can't see you. If it's a creature that's running away from you and suddenly, shit, I can't see. Oh god, I can't see more than 5 feet around me in any direction. Pretty useful. Again, good utility and okay damage. So those 8 again are Banishing Arrow, Beguiling Arrow, Bursting Arrow, Enfeebling Arrow, Grasping Arrow, Piercing Arrow, Seeking Arrow, and Shadow Arrow. Shadow Arrow. Shadow. I'm going to allow multiple votes because the top 2 you get to pick. This is going to be preferential voting again, so vote for all of the ones that you are equally okay with taking. Shadow Arrow could be taught by the Shadow God that gave us the Gamison who gave you the Pass Without Trace. Seeking seems like it wouldn't use it in combat much, mostly in AP. Yeah, it wouldn't be useful in combat all that much unless you start combating things that are hiding behind you or things that have got a lot of cover, like arrow slits and stuff. If somebody's firing at you from a castle, or they're hiding from you, or it's an invisible creature that's attacking you, or they're running away from you, they're escaping and you want to give chase, or you're running away and they're chasing you. Or if you're just attacking something that's got a low dexterity but a high armor class, like something that's really heavily armored, like a paladin, and you just can't get through its armor class, but you know that it probably got a low dex. It's good for that as well. Could also apply Hunter's Mark to the target after hitting it with Seeking so we don't lose them again. Yeah, pretty good, pretty clever idea, Redial. There are so many good choices. Arcane Archer is a good subclass. What I would love from Arcane Archer as well is the ability to choose not just the arrow shot, but the School of Magic, and then have different effects for that School of Magic. Because I was lying there in bed last night thinking about this, and I was like, the Transmutation School of Magic feels a little bit odd. Like turning it ethereal and making it a piercing arrow doesn't really feel like transmutation so much as like, I don't know what it feels like, but turning ethereal doesn't strike me as transmutation. Like turning flesh to stone feels transmutation. Like being able to shoot a target and petrify them feels like very much transmutation. Or being able to shoot a target and give it a fly speed or something. Like you can shoot one of your allies and give them a fly. You can give them some transmutation. Like you can haste one of your allies feels like transmutation or something. I don't know. It feels like you could do other things with some of these schools of magic. Banishing is my favourite for the interplanar story potential. Yeah, that's got some good story. How would you handle the overlap between the Banishing Arrow and the 13th level Horizon Walker spell Banishment? Well, they're completely different spells because they banish things to an extraplanar area, but one of them does damage and then he comes back around later, and the other one goes entirely and is gone for as long as you can concentrate. So they do a similar thing, but they have very different effects. And if we take the Banishing Arrow and then we get all the way to 13th level and get Banishment, then I will work that out when we come to it. I won't let you lose out on having some cool feature because you've already got a similar feature. I'll like buff up the spell Banishment, or if you do both at the same time, then also one of them uses an arcane shot and one of them uses a spell slot, so they're completely different. They use different resources. They've got a similar effect but for different durations. I don't think there's a lot of overlap there. Is time dilation in effect on the Banishing Arrow? Yes, probably, Matt. Yeah. I don't want two that just do extra damage. I'd like one of them for flavour. That makes sense, yeah. Turning the arrow into a fire arrow for the transmutation. Yeah, just adding extra damage, like adding an extra damage type, like choosing which damage type to do for your transmutation. You can add an extra 2d6 damage of your type. So if you've worked out that this thing is radiant, immune to necromancy, but like vulnerable to radiant or something, you can shoot it and do radiant damage. That would be a good transmutation one as well. Alright, Beguiling Arrow is going to be gone then, and as is Enfeebling Arrow. Not a lot of people wanting that one. Shadow Arrow is probably also gone, which gives us 15%, which wouldn't be enough for the Banishing Arrow. Oh, Banishing Arrow is not actually doing that well. Interesting. I thought Banishing Arrow would be doing much better. Alright, preferential voting. What it means is I drop off all the ones that if everybody who'd voted for these bottom votes had voted for the next one up, would it have gotten above 50%? No. So Beguiling Arrow is gone, Enfeebling Arrow is gone, Shadow Arrow is gone. Banishing Arrow is also gone. Because that is 15, 34, that is 34%. 34% onto Piercing Arrow would have taken it to 49%, close enough. So I'm going to go with the top 4 votes. Banishing Arrow's gone. Tell you what I'll do. Because a lot of people have been saying that they want one damaging one and one story one, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to choose both of them from this one vote. I'm going to choose one of them, and once we've got one of them locked in, that might affect what other people want for the second one. And so then we'll decide, all right, for the if now that we have X arrow locked in, which one do we want next? So on this first one, for the first arrow, we are just going to go with the first 4. Seeking, Bursting, Grasping, Piercing. Seeking, Bursting, Grasping, Piercing. Let's go fast poll again. Seeking, Bursting, Fasting, Piercing. Out of those 4, pick the ones that you're happy with. Let's see if we can get any of them above 50%. Does using these arrow types require a spell slot? No, you have two uses of them per day. Completely separate to your anything else. Completely separate to your spell slots, your hit dice, your anything. It doesn't require anything other than a usage of these things. We're going to represent them as like 2 crossed arrows on the screen that pop away so that you can see when you've used them, and then they come back on a short rest, much like your action surge and your second wind does. Can you use the same arrow twice? Yes, you can. Yep. All right. Piercing is currently only got 15%. That is going. If all the people who voted for piercing voted for grasping instead, that would get us still not up to 50%. So grasping is gone as well. So it's seeking or bursting for the first arrow. You could go with seeking and bursting, but for the first arrow, we're going to lock in seeking or bursting. All right. Seeking is definitely winning this. Bursting is not coming back. We've got 15 votes for bursting and 30 for seeking, or thereabouts. So it's about 2/3 to 1/3 saying seeking to bursting. So the first one is going to lock in our option for seeking arrow. We're going to use divine magic, which is probably going to tie in with the dice in some way because they are also divine magic. Divination magic, sorry, not divine, divination. Divination magic. So we're going to choose seeking arrow. Pretty exciting stuff. Then our next poll is which for the second option. Now that we have seeking involved, which one do we want for our second option? You may decide, okay, now that we've got this one, I'm fine with us taking bursting, or I'm fine with us taking banishing, or I'm fine with whatever. So the next one is banishing. I'm going to just save myself time by ignoring beguiling, because nobody went for beguiling before. Bursting, banishing, bursting, enfeebling. I don't think anybody was really going for enfeebling before. You know what? I'll include them all anyway. Beguiling. I'll include them all anyway then nobody can say that I was influencing the vote. Banishing, beguiling, bursting, enfeebling, grasping, piercing, seeking we just took, so the last one's shadow. Bursting for AoE damage. Remember, if we don't end up with what we wanted for arrows, all it means is new story directions. Exactly. Do not worry if you do not get your options. This is why we did a majority. You are part of a hive mind. You might not have chosen Ranger either when we first started with Apis, but you're probably enjoying yourself with Ranger. You may not have chosen Fighter when people decided to go Fighter, but you're probably enjoying the direction it's going. Maybe you didn't choose everything along the way, but this is part of why the hive mind forces stories that you're not expecting. All right, let's have a look at the answers that are coming in. We've got banishing arrow coming in 32%. So now that we've got seeking, it seems people are more interested in banishing. Beguiling got 0, enfeebling only 3%, piercing only at 7%, and shadow only at 8%. So if I drop off all of those, we're only at 18. 18 onto 25, still not enough to get it over the mark. So 24 and 8 makes 30, 32, 32 and 10 makes 42. 42 still not quite enough. So it would be drop that and get onto bursting. All right. So it's just going to come down to the last two, banishing or bursting. Grasping is very... Ooh, grasping and bursting. Ooh, just as I said that, grasping and bursting are now like neck and neck. So I'm going to have to go the top three. Banishing, bursting, and grasping. All right, how we going? Ooh, Jesus, you guys can't decide, can you? Grasping is clearly trailing, but not by a lot. You're not far off of 33% on each fucking one. You're at 39% bursting, 35% banishing, 26% grasping. This is coming down to the wire here. We're going to have to put it down to, again, another round of preferential voting for just the top two, bursting or banishing. Grasping is close, though. If 5 more people voted for grasping, we'd be neck and neck with that and banishing again. Apis is of 3 minds on the subject. Alright. Grasping, I've given you enough time, but you're not coming back. You clawed 1 vote extra, but no, grasping has not come back. So bursting and banishing it is. Hooey, another one. Bursting and banishing now. It's the main 2. I kind of thought that this might happen because it was the main 2 that people were going fucking ham on in the Twitch Tales chat in my Discord. People were like, "Come on, bursting. Oh, but banishing though. Oh, but bursting though. But banishing though." And nobody was given any ground. We've got seeking. Is it going to be seeking and bursting or seeking and banishing? This should be the last of the level up polls. This vote is the last one. Sparrow has finally been won over to the banishing side. Alright, it's come down to it. It's very close, but not close enough. Those people wanting banishing for the story, I'm afraid you are outnumbered. In the last moment, we have 24 votes for banishing and 30 for bursting. So it's 44 to 56%. So bursting it is. Bursting has it. Do not worry. If you guys, after a level or 2 of fighter and you're not enjoying it, if after the next arc of the campaign you haven't used bursting or seeking or whatever, I will give you the chance to change it again if you really want to. But for the foreseeable future, Apis will have seeking arrow and bursting arrow, which is very exciting. Seeking and bursting, which could stack into seeking and bursting. All right, and then we are going to roll for hit points. I would normally ask you the question of whether you wanted to roll for hit points or take the average, but every single round so far, every single level so far, Apis has voted to roll for hit points because rolling is more fun. And because I allow rerolls of 1s, it works out the same average anyway. So I'm just going to assume that you are going to roll again, and we're going to roll for the hit points. Shout in the chat if you really hate that idea and you want to take the average instead. All right, dice cam, here we go. A d10. 8, not bad, above average. This is why we roll. 8 hit points onto there. What were we on? We were on 74, which 8 plus our con mod of 2 gets us up to 84. So that should be up to this, I think. 85. How did I do that? Con mod of 2. Oh, plus 1 from Hildorf. Yes, from 1 from Hildorf. So we should be up to 85. Apply. Didn't give us a window to vote for the average. I don't give a shit. Average is boring. I don't take averages in my game. And as I say, every single round so far you've rolled for it and we roll for it. Rolling for it's much more fun and you end up with more hit points like this. Could have got a 10, yes. Could have got a 2, but you also could have got a 10. And we ended up above average. So Apis is at 85 hit points. Between now and next session, I will level up our ally Mel as well. Mel levels up every time we do. And then between now and next session, when we do next session, we're going to start with actually role-playing out how you got the seeking arrow, how you got the bursting arrow, how you got prestidigitation and knowledge in Arcana. We're going to do some overhaul, hopefully. And we'll start with the next arc of the campaign as you step through the Mushroom Myconid and into the lands beyond. Thank you very much for joining me, everybody. Stick around for the raid. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Are you finding this story really exciting, but you wish you were there to actually direct the story as it happens? Well, you can join in live and be part of Apis's hive mind over at twitch.tv/Robert Hartley GM.